Wait, when's my yay cue again?
My woo.
At 3 years. Wait, is it woo or yay?
Either one.
Shit.
You can improv as long as it's happy
Oh my
cheering.
God. Yeah, I was like, what's the corporate sponsored sound?
Now, witches are very curious people.
Hello, my name is Sade.
I'm Ravel.
And I'm Ophelia.
And welcome to The Witching Hour, a show for the creative horror fan covering topics from popular media,
Dark history.
True crime.
and all things creative with the intent to inspire listeners to do what they love and create their own horror.
Whether you're just an avid fan of the horror genre, a writer of the macabre, or an artist of any kind who makes spooky things, we're here to encourage you to follow your creative passions.
By sharing our love for all things creepy and dark, as well as our own creative struggles and insight, we hope to better ourselves alongside our listeners.
And with that, let's take a moment to celebrate the start of our 3rd year.
Woo!
Yay!
Fuck!
What?
I wooed instead of yayed.
Yes. It's my fault. It's all my fault.
It's about to follow your damn script, Ophelia.
This is why we don't get paid.
Okay, I also want to thank all of our listeners who have been with us from the beginning or joined along the way, as well as anyone who has ever contributed to the show in any way, big or small. Going into the new year, we are going to be trying some new things. We want to change our format a bit by breaking things up into segments. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be a learning process. Join us for it. We'll also be on
You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Join us for our learning process.
We'll also be moving to a monthly schedule with new episodes coming out on the first Sunday of each month. But since we are doing only an episode a month, we will aim to make episodes a little bit more longer and hopefully a bit more useful or insightful and not just us going on and on about murder.
That's some mighty high promises there.
Yeah.
You know what? We
But-
don't wanna underpromise and overdeliver. Wait, other one. We don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I make a great counselor.
But for our first episode this year, we are going to start out with some true crime and murder because it's the best way to start
That
your year.
shit's sick as hell.
Yep. So for this episode, we're actually going to try something new. We reached out to listeners, to patrons, and to the Creative Horror Discord for people to send us their perfect murder plots, just plots in general, and so we're just going to share those.
Just for fun,
Yeah,
not
just for fun.
because
Not
we're
for-
planning anything.
Nothing's gonna end up in evidence in a legal case in the future.
Mm.
I surely hope.
No, of course not. So we'll go through those, and then we do have a nice long discussion on Ted Bundy for you guys, which we actually recorded last year.
Oh my
and
god, that was a year
It got
ago.
put, yeah.
Would we call that a discussion so much as a shoddy mess of Ophelia's nonsense?
It is something.
It's
And
something.
it's, I think it's worth listening to. I think.
Well, good. You know, you're the one who had to listen to it 2 times, so that your opinion matters.
But first, let's talk about some murder. Murder. My murderinos.
My murder.
Hell yeah.
If you want a snack, have some murderinos. They microwave great.
What do you stuff a murderino with?
Probably some blood, I guess.
Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking, but I'm like, okay, it could be tastier than that.
We can be more creative than that.
A vampire would disagree.
I mean, true, but do vampires have good opinions?
I like.
As someone whose only original characters are all vampires that I created when I was 13, who I still stan.
They're all the best.
Vampires have terrible opinions.
Anyway, speaking of unholy creatures, our first murder plot
Hell yeah. Oh, what
is
a
sent
intro.
from our good friend of the show and listener, Zath.
Is it Seth? I know it's Seth.
He suggested poison as his murder method, but then to dispose of the body in a naturally occurring forest fire. And if they find it, it'll look like they got caught in the forest fire. Thoughts?
Damn, that's pretty good.
Is it? Because
It
I
was.
also brought this up on the Discord, the Creative Horror Discord. I asked everyone on the Discord right before we started recording, like, hey, what's the best way to get rid of a body? And Zath threw this out there again there too. And someone responded that someone had actually tried to do this.
Hey, quick question, what the fuck? Like, not like one of our listeners, right? Like, because, like, for some reason, that's what I immediately thought. Like,
Oh, I tried that one.
My buddy actually tried to do that, and it doesn't work. Just for the record. Like,
Well,
okay.
they didn't reference who it was or where this happened.
Yeah, all right.
But I guess someone did attempt to get rid of a body in a wildfire, but they figured out that it was a murder, and the killer was arrested. They didn't, like, reference, though, like, who or where. So I don't know if it's
I think I've
legit.
heard of this. I do think I've heard of this.
Yeah.
Well,
The biggest problem, anytime anyone introduces poison, I'm just like, can it be detected?
you
Yeah.
know, and it really, really, really depends on the poison.
It really does depend on the poison. Someone also pointed out in the Discord that you would need intense flames to really get rid of the body.
I was literally, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's if you want to, like, really hide the evidence of a poisoning, with a fire, like, it's going to have to be, like, such a high burning fire that the evidence of the body that you've got left when you get to it is just ash. Like, to the point where it's like, cool, here's, like, some metatarsals, you're welcome. Like, in a pile of like ash.
If
Yeah,
you,
because I feel like otherwise, because if there's, like, any tissues left over, like, they can probably still get, like, some samples, depending on the poison, some samples out of that, right?
my immediate thought is just you isn't like if like the murder movies have taught me anything kind of, or you know, you got to put that in a furnace, you know, if you want that body to just be nothing left to it practically.
Yeah, I feel like for some reason I recently looked up the temperature at which the human body had to be cremated, right? Like, and it was real high. Let me see if I can get it real quick. Well,
Sorry, Zach, I don't think you're gonna get away with that one.
The other one that Zath submitted, and this one it really isn't the perfect murder. I think
you're like it's a mediocre murder.
Well, I think he shared this one because it was just one that he kind of thought of, because you know that teacher that you have in school that you just wanted to murder. For me, it was my high school art teacher.
Wait,
for,
what?
For Zath, it was.
What's her face? Yeah.
I am gonna bleep that out.
Like, yeah, I was trying to say, like, that's why I did not say words, like, because, for the first second, I thought it was the other one, and I was like,
no,
what?
I love them.
I was like,
I didn't love him.
I was like, our boy, our friend, my friend on Facebook, how dare you?
He was great. No, I meant the other.
Okay. No, totally fine.
Okay. Anyway, for Zath, it was his gym teacher, so he had this idea, and this is 16-year-old Zath, so we will forgive him for his naive idea and just call it cute. I'm so sorry, Zath.
But his thought was like dragging him.
Okay, Zath is a good friend. He'll forgive me for it. Okay, so I guess at his school they had this tradition of where the teachers would play against the students in this like little like simplified baseball game. So his thought was that he could somehow accidentally have the bat slip out of his hands and whack the teacher dead.
It's
man.
I don't think it would hit
God,
with enough velocity.
Yeah, you'd have to have like everything would have to like line up so perfectly, right? Like,
I feel like that's something that's a move you would have to practice a lot.
Yeah, like, this would have to be like that's like those twisting bullets in Wanted. Like, you gotta practice like the full on like whopping that around, and you gotta hit that dude like bullets. Stick in the temple, right? Like, just right there, like in the temple. Like,
that'd be
I mean, it could be done probably. Like, I mean,
but even Zach would be surprised by the end of it.
Like, I'm like, maybe there's like some like, I don't know, some like Soviet spies who could do that shit. Like, but like, like, like maybe not. Like, maybe with some practice, some Soviet spy level, some KGB level practice.
I mean, for a 16-year-old, you know, you dream about it.
Oh no, I mean, to be fair, it's a completely valid dream. Absolutely, all that's valid. Like, I'm just like, it's not impossible. Like, don't call that impossible, because like, for the record, it's not impossible. It just would be, you know, you gotta plan it. I mean, it's not probable.
It would be a good way if you really could make it look like an accident and you actually got it done. Kudos, good job.
Like you said, the issue.
I know, that's a good point, because the more you practice, the less it looks like an accident.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Fuck.
Cats for like the last month. Like,
It's like this kid is like solidly ripped. His biceps are like 3 times thicker than any other part of his body. He just launches it, knocks this dude out cold, just fucking goes straight through him. Like, and it's just like, oh, sorry, that was an accident.
That's how I'm practicing for the last 3 months, right?
Okay, this next one was sent in on Twitter from Destiny. Hello, Destiny. Okay, their idea was, if there was a bake sale going on, I would invite the person to come. Since I would be selling baked goods to everyone, they wouldn't suspect me. I would poison the snack items that I am selling, but just one of them for that person. I would choose one that would be undetectable.
See, I feel like if you poison everyone, though, then you can blame food poisoning. No. No.
Well,
Is there a drug that is not detectable in the bloodstream?
here's a fun fact. Actually, yes. So, I'm just like, I'm
Welcome to
raring go with
Poison
this
101 with Ophelia.
Welcome to Ophelia, who just loves pharmaceutical murder. So, and this one's great. So, like, real quick, because I forgot about the murders, because it's actually very similar to this thought. But I forgot about these murders so I don't know if anybody heard about it, but recently they recalled a bunch of losartan, which is like this blood pressure medicine, because it was all tainted. Well, from both China and like this one company that's like out of Israel. So like a bunch of different companies, right? So it's not like just one specific company. So the drugs for high blood pressure are contaminated with this poison, right? It does a bunch of like liver damage to people, and it's almost completely undetectable in the human body unless you're like deliberately looking for it. And so, like, at least, like, as a poison, so, like, I mean, more so now, but, like, at the time that, like, this one poisoning occurred, like, it was pretty rare. And so, this drug, which I can't remember the name of, but I'm sure I could find it if anyone was curious later, it ended up in these pills, and these pills people were taking. And it's a drug that they would deliberately give to, like, mice, like, and rats and stuff, like in science, experimentally, to induce tumors in them. So, like, this is this compound that, like, it's a poison where, like, when you are full of it, like, fills your body up with tumors. Basically, it, like, is hypercarcinogenic. So, like, you grow a bunch of tumors, and so they put it in rats and stuff. And so, in, like, totally can't remember if it was the 70s or the 90s. It must have been, like, early 90s or something. I have to look it up again. It was, like, a family gathering, and someone in the family who was like, they worked at a place where they had access to this particular drug because they worked in a lab, a science experiment lab, where they do shit with animals, or they were a veterinarian. It was like some similar situation where they were a vet and they were, anyways, they had access to it, and they put it in the lemonade. So what ends up happening is that in people, it's like, because like we don't end up growing all the tumors quite as fast as a rat does, right? So it's like it doesn't have that effect on us. It will like make our liver shut down, so we'll die of liver failure, right? And so like when this poison was put in this lemonade, it was like super undetectable. This was a cold case, if I remember rightly, for a really long time until this. I'm probably fucking forgetting all of these deeds, so I'm so sorry if they're all wrong. But like I know the baseline is right. And it's the same drug, and it was the lemonade, it was the family lemonade, and when the coroner, like, looked up what had happened to find the poison, she was so shocked, because rather than it being, like, arsenic or cyanide, right, like the ones that we're used to, like, people being poisoned with, it was this very hard-to-access pharmaceutical compound that was designed for creating tumors in rats for scientific research purposes, and then it also could, cause a human's liver to shut down. And so it was like, these people have died of like liver failure in this family because this person just like poisoned the lemonade at the family party with it.
Do you know how quickly the liver?
It was like within like a couple days to a week, if I remember. I'll have to like really look up the actual drug compound again. But
if you can find an article that specifies all that, I can put that in the show notes for people who are curious about it.
I will. Okay, it was NDEA is the name of the carcinogen. It's nitrosodiethylamine. Nitrosodiethylamine. That's one of them had that in it, and the other one had the other shit in it. So apparently one of them has this stuff that's a carcinogen found in tobacco smoke in it, and the other one had the stuff that causes those liver tumors.
Damn.
I would think the biggest thing you'd have to make sure is that they couldn't link you back to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's is how hard it is to really hide. Especially if you're like, cool, like I killed like a lot of people and I'm the only one who didn't die. Like at this event. That's my potluck with a point and I'm the only one who didn't eat it, right? You're like, okay, what?
Yeah, what's going on here? And that's they were stupid. Like, you got to do this one thing at a time, buddy, you know.
Okay, in Destiny's scenario then, where she has the one muffin or cupcake baked good set aside for the person with the poison. What if, like, say, what if it's say let's say they like, no, I don't want a cupcake. Can I have a cookie instead?
Well then you make a poison cookie.
So you're gonna have like a poison.
Yeah, you're gonna have a whole. No, you're gonna have
whatever they want. There, okay.
Yeah, no, you're gonna rip up in your jacket. Okay, like you're a shady dealer in a back alley, and you're gonna have a one version of like every pastry, bitch. It's gonna be like the pastry case at a coffee shop. Like,
but what if?
Like, choose your pastry. That's exactly how you'll say it.
I feel like they'd be the type, but what if they're the type of person like, oh, I'm on a diet, and then you're just like, damn it.
Right.
But even just sneaking it into like their water or something like that, then it just sounds like fuck them up.
Sorry, here's my like real quick like update is that I looked up the like losartan tablets that had been recalled, and the actual like medical journal that had like updated it was like, here's the drug that was in it, and it's this carcinogen, but it's on Wiki, it's like not to be confused with this one, which is the one that was used as a poison. So actually the one that was in the medicine issue, different than this carcinogen. So just for the record, that fact was wrong. And that fact was wrong because journalists suck at their fucking job. Okay. I mean, so like, I didn't get that wrong. That was because some local news journalist was like, I work for the AP and I'm like terrible at actually making sure that like these hard words that I don't understand are the right hard words. So I'm not salty at all, but I was just made to say lies, and I wasted a bunch of energy saying lies, and it wasn't my fault, okay? So, like,
well, it was a fun ride, so don't worry about it.
You're welcome.
Alright, next murder plot. Let's move on to the next murder plot. So this one was sent in through email from Latroon. So their plot is they would befriend a jerk, who is the kind of person who is like, always saying shit of like killing someone. What I'm understanding here.
All right, yeah. So like someone who's like totally into the idea, yeah.
Okay. They'd befriend this asshole, and the important thing would be to get a recording of them either threatening someone or just like talking about how they want to kill someone. And then they would figure out their routine and get access to where they live and like plant things. Plant evidence. And then report
Whose idea was this?
This is Latroon, another listener.
This is sick. Like, this is amazing. Like, whoever you are, I love you. Like, great, excellent job. 15 out of 10. 15 out of 10. Continue.
Okay. So they would plant evidence, acids, whatnot, everything you need for a good murder.
Yeah.
And then when they have a chance to, with no alibi, when they're somewhere away or they can't put together an alibi, they will call the police and put up the act in tears saying that, oh, I have been forced by this person to help them build a bomb, or they're planning to kill some sort of official. I have recorded evidence, and hopefully the person will go away for prison or be executed. That's some crafty shit. Like
they don't have to be murdered. I just want them gone.
This is one that's gonna take a lot of time and determination.
Yeah. This is a lot of calculation, but it's like, okay, when it, you know, when you get that sweet success, it's worth it.
But is this one where you would devote years of your lives to, and then when it's over, you're like, who am I now?
Yeah, no, for real. It's like, I've been undercover so long, like,
I can't go back.
Yeah.
But it's good because it is, what I do think is good about it is I think of how often it'll be like, oh yeah, we got this on tape. We got this recorded of him making threats. I mean, juries eat that shit up, you know?
Yeah, right? Mm. Holy shit though. Like, it's, you got your evidence right there. Okay. Incredible. Yeah.
Very, very good. Good job, Latroon.
Good job. No, I love it. I like so far, 10-10. Can't find a criticism. It's a long haul. It's a long con. It's the long con, but it's worth it.
Okay, I do have one last murder plot that was submitted by another listener. This is from Eric, and his plot is an icicle. Just have the murder weapon be like, you know those icicles that form like maybe in the winter off the edge of your house and they're super super sharp and scary. Just
Did you
stab
just
him
ask me
with
if I knew what an icicle was?
Shut up. Stab him with an icicle.
I love you. Like, I was just like, this is next level. Hold up. Like, to be fair, like, yeah, like, they're not universal.
If, like, say, and then, like, put the body somewhere where it's warm so, like, the icicle melts. And then, like, if there's no murder weapon, then they can't get you.
But they can. And that's the problem. It doesn't have to be a murder weapon. It's like, was there blood on you? There was blood on the accused gloves that matched the victim.
I fucking thought you were going to say the IKEA gloves.
The
IKEA gloves.
Blood on them.
As we all know, the Swedes have
No.
the most helpful equipment for detecting crime.
No, but like
so it just lights up under luminol.
So my biggest issue with blood, like involving blood in any murder, is the fact that once you got blood on you of someone else, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I mean, you know, I don't know so much though, because it's like yeah, blood's hard to clean up, but it's really dependent on the surface. So like it's like okay, so say you murder someone, right? But you're in a room with all glass windows, right, and doors. The floors, glass. The ceiling, glass. The walls, glass. Boom. There you go. Bleach it all, you're fine. Like, it's not going to stick to it. It's not going to stain it. It's not going to do anything. So it's like, you can clean up blood to a certain degree, right? Mm-hmm. And, like, not, like, leave any evidence. But it's like, okay, cool. Do you live in a glass box? No? Like, but the only reason I point that out is because, like, I've seen cases where one stands out to me where a man had murdered, like, some family member of his. And it had been, like, quite a few months since he had done it. There was only, like, a tiny speck of blood, like, that they found, and it was, like, on the baseboard of, like, the bathroom where he had, like, dismembered her body in the bathtub. And the expert had mentioned, she was like, well, you know, the blood, like, stops pumping a certain degree after death. If you kill somebody by, like, strangling them, and then you put their strangled body in a bathtub, and you let it sit there for a while so the blood settles, right? And then you cut them apart. No blood spatter. Like, it's not going to...
Exactly! This is why you gotta let that rigor mortis set in before you start cutting up the body.
Like, the whole thing is that it's like, yeah, there's not, like, if you're not, like, stabbing the shit out of somebody, right? Like, so if you don't kill them violently, you're not going to have a bunch of blood spatter. And then it's like, yeah, like, if you don't, like, basically you get a lot of blood spatter from your heart pumping it and just shooting it places. And your veins. Your veins. Did you know that the way that your blood gets from, like, your feet to back up, the way it circulates is because your veins have these little teeny tiny, like, microscopic little flaps in them, and little flaps inside your veins open and close, and they push the blood, like, back up. There you go. There's some anatomy facts. But yeah, it's like, those aren't moving, right? Like, your blood's just going to settle. If your heart's not pumping your blood, those aren't going to be working. Nothing's going to be working.
That's my thing. I'm always skeptical of blood, because like you said, if you're in a glass house, maybe, but there's always like, well, what if some of it got on the carpet or under the baseboard?
And you know, and so many people, it's like, okay, they take all their clothes off and they either throw them away or they burn them. Like, if they get their clothes, like, covered in blood. But it's like, cool, did you get, like, the insides of your own fingernails beach? Right? Did you, you know, like, how deep did you get in there? Like, are you even sure?
Yeah. I'd be paranoid for the rest of my life that there was some speck of blood I missed somewhere. I tend to go for the pillow over the face or the chokehold.
You know, the chokehold would actually, I feel like, be way harder than it seems, because apparently people struggle much more than. Damn, you guys! Like, how did you get me to get this bad? It was like I've been used to having these conversations with people who, like, aren't okay with me, like, talking like this. And so it's just like, damn, it took me a while to open up, but, like, here you go, you want it, you got it. Like, this is me, like, yeah, actually, like, people struggle pretty hardcore when you try to suffocate them to death, and it takes a long time, apparently. And so, like, they fight back, like, longer than we expect. And so apparently it becomes, like, kind of psychologically trying on you, like, while you're just, like...
you know you're murdering someone, you better go all the way in on that. So.
Yeah. And,
I think strangulation is probably one of the worst ways to try and kill someone.
Yeah, especially if you do it with your own hands. I mean, I can't. I got tiny Vienna sausage fingers, and my hands probably open up to... What could I strangle? A pear? Like, no.
What if you get them super drunk first, that they pass out?
Incapacitate them first, and then...
Oh, absolutely. You could suffocate them, and they would end up choking on their own vomit, because they'd probably vomit while, like, fucking suffocating. Like, so, like, okay, but, like...
So there you go. It's way.
I'm just like, well, that's, like, mean. And then I'm like, okay... Just be like, okay, but like, which one's more mean? Like, murdering somebody at all, or murdering them after getting them drunk so that it's easier to do?
See, I'm sorry. The one thing I made, there's this one case that I watched where this guy was like in prison, and cigarettes are, a high stake item in prison. And he was
absolutely, you will trade all sorts of shit for cigarettes.
Yeah, it's like, if you let me tie you up, I'll give you a cigarette. And the guy was like, cool. And so
it's like, hell yeah, I'll get into some kinky prison sex for free cigs.
He tied him up and then strangled him. I think it was, or stabbed him. He might have stabbed him because
never mind.
He was trying to get caught. Like, he was trying to get caught with this.
Oh,
so the fact that it was like, look, just if you're worried about it, be like, oh man, can I overstrength them? Just give them some reason to get tied up, and then you can strength them. And in that case, just find it. Like, if you're trying to kill someone, just be like, hey, let's have some kinky sex. Okay, so there you go.
Yeah. Just like, hey, are you into what is it, shibari? Like,
there you go. I don't have the patience for that. I was just gonna go for like some handcuffs. Call it good.
Okay, well, I reached out to the Discord right before we started recording and asked them, because, okay, what do you need for a perfect murder? You either have to have a for sure way to get rid of the body so they don't find it. Mm-hmm. No body, no murder.
Oh, no, yeah, that's the one thing I always forget, is that if they can't find the body, then, like, yeah, like, you're fine. So, like, dump that shit in the Mariana Trench.
Then it's just an unsolved missing persons case for eternity. So I reached out, asked them, okay, how do you get rid of the body? What's the best way to get rid of the body? So like I mentioned before, Zaf suggested forest fire. Some username, who is one of our patrons, thank you, username, suggested, well, they pointed out this speech from the movie Snatch, which I have not seen, but feeding the body to pigs, to starved pigs, was what.
Oh, dude, pigs are scary as hell. Brett, damn, I wish Brett's in here grabbing our laundry, and I really wish that she could, like, hear as we're talking. Dude, we're talking about, like, feeding some ready to starving pigs. Like, what a sick way to kill somebody, right, Brett? My lesbian fiance says yes. That was in Hannibal. On top of, the French Revolution, says Brett. Yeah. So apparently they just fed people to pigs during the French Revolution. We got some sick shit. This person's got some sick shit in their head.
That's a pretty solid one.
Effective and proven, it seems.
I just love it. Like, I'm like, wait, hold on, Brett, you're in the room. Comment on feeding people to pigs. And Brett's like, oh yeah, they did that shit during the French Revolution. Nods sagely, leaves the room. Like, just with a handful of laundry. Like, I'm just like, yep, that's my fiance. Like.
But it is. I think, that's pretty legit. Because my thought is always, the things that I remember are cases that it was really hard to find people. Surprisingly, even just throwing them out with the trash, it could be really hard to find a body at that point.
Absolutely, because it's like, okay, so if you murder somebody and you put their body in a Walmart suitcase, don't do that, by the way. Don't murder a hooker and then, like, go directly to Walmart the same night and, like, buy a fucking suitcase to put her body in, like, on your credit card, right? Like, so don't do that, because, like,
that's the biggest one.
Yes, yes, I am describing something that actively happened. Yeah, and so it took them forever, but they did eventually find her. But it was like they never found, I think, the second person it was like one of the other women he murdered. He murdered like 2 girls this way. And it was like, he just dismembered her, put her body in this suitcase, and then, like, threw it into a dumpster. And because he was kind of, like, traveling around while he was doing this, because he was at, like, a motel or whatever, they didn't know that because she was a prostitute. So it's like nobody had reported her missing for quite a while. And so when by the time she was finally reported missing, the suitcase with her body in it was buried beneath layers of just shit at the dump. They did eventually find her because they had to find this, specific. And the only reason they did was because they found the Walmart security footage of him buying the exact suitcase. So, like, we know what suitcase we're looking for, and then they, like, went and found it. But, like, the first case where they're, like, pretty sure that he did the same thing to another person, they never found it. And it was like, all he did was put her body in a trunk, throw it in a dumpster, and, like, it made it to the dump before they knew she was missing. So it was like, by that point,
it's too damn late.
Yeah, and it's like, what a lazy way to dispose of a body, but, like, yeah, if the circumstances are right, it works.
Yeah.
It'd be more effective if you say you broke up the body into different pieces and then dispersed them into different dumpsters.
Because they wouldn't be able to find it. My thought is, like, God, on the one hand, you increase it by having more pieces in different places, but at the same time, they're smaller, so good luck with that.
also thought that I just recently had while I was reading about some fucking murder where they're like, oh yeah, we're like, we know he did it because like we tracked his phone's GPS to exactly that location while he was like burying the body. And I'm just like, bitch, if you're burying a body, and in this case it was like a body that like were moving from one location to another, so it was already buried. So it's like they weren't doing it spontaneously. It was planned that they were going to move the body. It was like, bitch, why'd you bring your cell phone with you? Who are you? How dumb are you? Like,
what an amateur.
Yeah, one amateur. So apparently, by the way, like the way it works is like because it pings the towers, which like aren't even that, like, which can't even triangulate that well. But it's like, why not leave your cell phone at home, buddy? I don't know. But you know what? People who only murder one person are usually not very bright.
But I was going to say, I think that's the other thing. You have to be aware, keep track of your cell phone. That stuff has GPS. And I think another one that I've always seen that tends to be people's undoing, if you're going to murder someone, buy that shit really far in advance so they don't be like, yeah, I just saw him buying a hammer.
Yeah, exactly.
Last week at Walmart. Like,
do you think that even slight chance you might murder someone in the future? Buy your shit now. That way, in 5 years, when you're finally tempted, you already got things.
That's the most Capricornian shit that I have ever heard. Like, I'm sorry, bitch. You plan your murders for the future. You invest early, okay?
Invest early. Get that rope and duct tape way before you do the murder.
It's just like, bitch, you get rid of that paper trail. Like, you're gonna murder. Like, you don't know for sure. But, like, it might happen, right? So, like, you have the trunk. You got the trunk of stuff. It's been 90 days. You can't even return it to the store. They ain't gonna find you. You're fine.
Yeah. There you go.
I just love it. Normally, like, I guess the assumption is that it's like people who like buy all their murder weapons and then immediately murder somebody that day. It's like, okay, this is kind of a crime of passion. Kind of. It's like, it seems like it was a spontaneous enough decision that it happened the same day. Yeah.
I've had my Boston murder gear for years.
I just love it because you're just straight up just like, oh, hell no, I got a list. You're just like, I don't know if I'm ever going to resort to murder, but like, if I have to.
Yep, don't leave a paper trail. Don't leave your phone.
Always pay cash. Just pay cash.
Always pay cash. Don't bring your phone with you.
Also, don't get the cash like out of the ATM like yesterday.
Have that murder stash put aside in your mattress.
Basically, murder better than white dudes do. Like, have like a better play. I don't know. Oh my god.
Let's move on to someone else suggested method of getting rid of the body. Construction company, when they lay down the foundation, drop the body in there, bury it a little bit, and then when they pour in the cement. Thoughts? No.
I know I've seen stuff like that, like on Castle and whatnot. And the biggest issue you've always have is if gotta make sure no one discovers it before they build that building up, and when it comes, and hope it doesn't come down in a couple years.
Yeah, the cases where I know that people have done this, it's usually that they do it on their own property, and so like then it becomes suspicious. Like their neighbors are like, oh yeah, I noticed that they put in a whole ass like 40 square foot by 40 square foot like concrete porch suddenly, right? Like, after rolling in some big ass oil drums. But like if it was another location of like a construction place.
Yeah, and the suggestion from Alex was that it would be like maybe you own a construction company, so maybe you got multiple sites that you can choose from.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Username who suggested the feeding the pigs, he pointed out that, I guess, Mythbusters debunked this one, where it's not so simple that you would have to, eventually the body would still decompose.
Oh, absolutely.
The smell leaks out.
The smell would leak out in like probably less than 2 days, like 3-ish. Yeah, you get mad.
And then, I guess once the body is decomposed, it leaves a cavity in the concrete when it dries out.
I forgot. Yep, I've seen that episode. I'd forgotten about it.
Mm-hmm.
It would leave a cavity in the concrete.
So I think now the point they made, about digging a bit first.
That's what I was thinking. Is that like, so you come up on your construction site, right? Like. While it's still a hole, because you haven't like filled in the foundation with concrete, dig like a hole in like the dirt foundation, and then you put your body in there, and then you like cover it up.
I think the whole concern, of course, in that instance is just the fact that, one, if you own the properties, but two, if you don't, there's always that idea if someone's going to notice you digging a hole, because usually
it's literally like if you don't own the property, someone's going to notice, and if you do own the property, why are you burying dead bodies there? Because like your name's literally right on the paper.
Yeah. So that's
like, yeah.
I mean, don't.
Okay. So burying bodies on your property, bad idea. Someone else did suggest...
If you own the property, not a good idea.
Someone else did suggest this. This is from Slime Beast. He suggested, find yourself some roadkill, dead animal on the side of the road. So you bury your bodies, like, in your backyard, really deep. and then a few feet above that, several feet above that.
Are you trying to cover up the smell with the roadkill?
Yeah, put the roadkill of like a few feet above your body, bury the animal, and then if, say, cadaver dogs are brought in, they'll dig up the dead animal first, and it'll be a false positive.
This has been debunked, I believe.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm pretty sure that if a dog smells it, they go deeper.
The thing
they would
is
keep going
that,
deeper.
Yeah, the thing with cadaverine, that's just like the scent, right? Like the corpse smell that I think is the one that they train dogs to smell. I think just because of like the size of a person's body, for a dog, the smell would be so much more overwhelming than like a raccoon. Unless we're talking like a buck that's the size of a person, right? Like, so it's like, yeah, bitch, if you like hit a moose with a Mack truck and you bury that moose like right on the surface, right? And then you bury that human body, like, I don't know, 12 feet down, double it up. That would be a lot of work, though.
That's a lot of work, yeah.
They got a warrant and believe in you being of suspicion that strongly that they already are digging in your backyard. I'm pretty sure they would move the raccoon, be like, hey, dog, now what you think? The dog's like, nope.
To be fair to, like, who submitted this, like, I immediately was thinking, like, raccoon roadkill, because, like, I'm from the Pacific Northwest. So, like, they were obviously, you know, like, to be fair, I immediately was like, wait, there's, like, deer and shit, and, like, that's the size of human body. Because I was like, well, how would you cover up the same scent? Because, like, it would be way stronger from the body than, like, your other
Well, they didn't specify. They just said dead animal. Well, they said dead animal on the side of the road. Dead animal on the side of the road. So, yeah, so that's usually, you know, raccoon, squirrel, maybe a possum.
I would say
I have seen a dead deer on the side of the road.
Try it with a giant dead deer. Try it with a dead deer. But you gotta get that body deeper than someone who's been irradiated in a nuclear reactor accident, which is like 9 feet down in a lead casket. So, like, if you plan on digging deeper than that, go for it.
I think that's all the case. Is like, yeah, one you would have to do it probably much deeper. I think the other thing is, like I said, I think that really does rely on how stupid your investigators are. That they're just going to be like, oh, clearly it was the raccoon. But I feel like if they're already digging in your backyard, they're going to make sure. And also, why did you bury a raccoon in your backyard, sir? You know.
Okay, let's thank all of our listeners who sent in their murder plots. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone in the Discord who was also humoring me with their ways to get rid of a body. We also talked about ways to not leave evidence.
I think we like the pig one the mic.
Yeah, I need to go see this movie that Snatched, because I watched the clip from it and it looked interesting.
Is it one of my hot actors that I like in it?
I think Brad Pitt. He said Brad Pitt, and I don't know if you're into Brad Pitt.
30.
Yeah, I'm into Brad Pitt. Actually, Brad Pitt's been a fantastic actor. He's like really underrated and incredible. Like as an actor, he's pretty sick and he's really hot. But no, for real, he's actually really good at the end. I'm sorry, I never
Actually, no, speaking of actors, and since the next segment is on a certain serial killer who has a bio-documentary thingy coming out soon, tell us.
Wait, what?
You know where I'm going with this, come on.
We do? Oh my god. Are you... I forgot. Why would you remind me right now? Because you want me to cry to death?
What?
I'm trying to segue into the next segment, so just announce this, because we also weren't able, I accidentally not recorded when you brought it up last time.
That's so fine. Okay, good, excellent. So my energy is appropriate for my level of enthusiasm. So
yes, go.
They're making a biopic about my boy Theodore, Robert Bundy, right? Is that Robert? Whatever, who cares? Teddy Bob Bundy. And Zac Efron is playing Ted Bundy. And yes, that does sound horrifying, but it is also amazing, and it is amazing because the pictures, the promo shots of Zac Efron as Ted Bundy are to die for, and we're just like, look, he looks exactly like Ted Bundy, and this is both horrifying and amazing. So I'm super stoked.
Now that we're on Bundy, let's cut over to the segment that we have dubbed it, and now we're talking about Ted Bundy.
You dubbed it, and now we're talking about... That's the dub? That's what you're calling it?
That's what I'm calling it, because that's what you said. If you hear a weird pulsating, ticking in the background, it is because it is murder time with Ophelia.
It's a fucking murder club. Hi, I'm Ophelia.
So... we've had Ophelia a few times now, and we decided we want to start building up the episodes where Ophelia joins us as a special segment. We don't know what to call it yet. Killer Corner, Murder Time, we're not sure. But
murder toy.
we are gonna keep focusing on like different serial killers. But we're also gonna branch out into other true crime focused on the murder, because that's what we really want to talk about. Murder. Just kind of a disclaimer, and it's kind of been this way already. When Ophelia comes on, they are sharing with us their personal knowledge and just their enthusiasm for this dark history.
Just Passion Town.
Yeah. These episodes will be more conversation and speculation and just our general thoughts on said serial killer or murder case or whatever, and we will do our best to present correct facts. But if you want the facts, then we would suggest, and we will link to articles in the Wikipedia page in the show notes every time. But the goal of these episodes won't be exactly to
don't use me in any academic citations. But, verify things for yourself as well.
Yeah.
This is a fun show. We're fun people, like Drunk History.
So with that, Ophelia, please share with us who we're talking about today.
Oh my goodness, gosh.
Drum roll. Da-da-da-da.
Welcome to the hour of Ophelia. Got a new job, drank too much coffee, smoked a doobie, and now we're talking about Ted Bundy.
I think that's the best introduction to an episode ever, right there.
Yeah, there we go.
So, we're gonna see where this goes. My boy Ted, starting with, this man was a Sagittarius, born on November 24th, 1946.
I have to laugh because David is a Sagittarius.
But is
Look, Sagittarians are a problem, right? Like, they're great. I love them because just like lucky shit happens to them like all the time. Like this bit, this bit. Ted Bundy, like, how did he end up in law school? Like, at some point in his life, in fact, he's like, this, I don't understand it. Actually, I'm terrible at it. How did he get in? Because he's a Sagittarian. Welcome to none of this is facts. It's just Ophelia.
None of this is facts. It's just Ophelia.
No facts zone. All Ophelia zone. Okay, so Ted Bundy was born Theodore Robert Bundy. Actually born Theodore Robert Cowell, as in Simon Cowell. Cowell last name. But same last name, not a relation. But there you go. That's how you spell that. And then he died on January 24th, 1989. The year I was born, this man was gleefully roasted by Florida, who does not fuck around. And we'll get to that.
We'll definitely get to that.
We'll get to Florida not fucking around.
But yeah, let's start with his childhood because there was some weird stuff.
Oh, this is my favorite. All right, so like one thing that I want to mention when I start off with Ted Bundy is that this is my boy from my area. So I was born and raised. Oh no, I was born in California. That doesn't fucking count. I'm from Oregon. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, the glorious land of murder, where serial killers just everywhere. Goddamn, everywhere. The 70s, yeah, that's fun. I'm pretty sure if you talk to anybody in this area, and it's like, hey, so like, what would you say the 70s were like in Portland? Like, what's your idea? What were the 70s like in Seattle, right? And it's like fucking people just dead, lots of death, lots of murder, lots of girls dying. So that's our thing. That's what we're good at. We're good at coffee, occasionally winning the Super Bowl, and murder. Like, yeah.
When someone asks me, hey, how come you don't want to leave Oregon? That's exactly what I'm going to tell them.
Yeah, you're just like, you know what? You come for the coffee, you stay for the murder. Maybe one day you'll share a beer with Bigfoot.
Because you were murdered.
Yo, so on the Murder Channel, which you know what? Hey, at Investigation Discovery, like, where's my sponsor money? Because I talk about you all the time. Give me money. Tell me everything. Yeah. So this channel, there's a new show. I do believe it was I think it was maybe last year it started, called The Wonderland Murders. That's literally just about murders that happened in Portland, Oregon. Okay, the craziest part is that a lot of them are more recent, and so I was literally living there, and I'm just like, yeah, I remember all of these murders. Sick. I was there. But yeah, the intro to it's great if you want to know what this is like. It's just the intro to that show, which is the Pacific Northwest. nature's gauntlet or fucking whatever, right? Like, okay, the harsh Pacific Northwestern forest winterlands. Like, I don't know. People got wild ideas about what it's like here, but really, it's Gravity Falls. It's like Gravity Falls,
but with more murder.
But with some.
I was gonna say with less wholesome. It sounds like.
Yeah, lots of that. Yeah. So this is we're going all over the place today. Y'all are on the Thunder Mountain Ophelia Railroad today. Before I get into my boy Bundy, what I want to mention is, and looking him up, and so part of the reason that I'm kind of like taking a more trying to take a more relaxed tone with this is A, I talk too fast, and B, this guy is like, he kind of ended up the canon serial killer. The proliferation of his murders, the amount of states it happened in. He kind of is, there's a lot of lore kind of associated with him. There's a lot of like associations with just like things that he did that are now thought to just be, this all serial killers do this. When in reality, it's like, this is just Ted Bundy, actually.
Mm-hmm.
This is just this guy.
He's become like the poster boy for
oh yeah, he really is the poster boy for murder, which is funny because his his conviction, he's probably convicted for the murders of like a little over 30 women. Like, we've got people with much higher body counts, right? Like the Green River Killer is like up in the 200s. But again, cheating, because it's easy when you're killing women who are willing to get into your car. When you have to stalk them, right? That's a little harder.
Would you here easy mode?
Yeah. So like, no, for real. Like, yeah, you got 200 kills on easy mode. Like, like you're already in a situation where strangers have to trust you. God. And also in that regard, he is one of the, he's an example of, and I'm not a qualified psychologist, but he is an example of antisocial personality disorder in the way that it had historically been used to describe sociopathy in like serial killers. This probably isn't accurate to today. There's a lot of changes to how we would describe a lot of these personality disorders and how we would use the word psychopath or sociopath, which is we don't largely. But so just for the record, when I do use words like that, I'm kind of like, I mean, it's sort of in that historical context, not in the like, that's kind of the lore and canon associated with Ted Bundy. It has association with it. And but knowing that, in reading about his life and in reading about his descriptions of, okay, who he killed, when he killed them, where he killed them, what he did with them, if he even killed them, he tells conflicting accounts of everything to everyone. And so there are like 6 different biographers for him. Largely, there's 3 major biographers that it sounds like are the people the most in the like Bundy literature. Yeah, the most credited, and of course Anne Rule is one of them who
worked with him.
Who worked with him on the suicide prevention hotline in Seattle or in the Tacoma area. He actually did a lot of work. Not surprisingly, in like helping search for, like, he was working on a task force at some point to help search for missing women, right? And like he was like helping put together those task forces. Oh yeah, he like made a brochure once about like how to help women, like how to not get raped.
Oh my god,
how to not get raped by me. Like, yeah, so this dude is like a level of just like, he's out there. He's unique in and of himself, and that's kind of something that like, he also, it's like one of the main things to understand is like, you want to talk about an unreliable narrator, it's a sociopath with this level of charisma. And so when you're looking at things that he said, like as an account of like even his childhood, right? It's all, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. It's not that it's all going to be complete lies, but there's going to be half truths in there, and then there's just going to be bullshit. It's probably mostly going to be bullshit, depending on who he said it to, which, so it's hard so it would be hard to just be like, hey, here's a bio of Ted Bundy. This is because I would just spend the entire podcast telling you conflicting reports of this is, he said this once and this another time. So basically, baseline, he's going to be like that. that's how sociopaths are. And that's what was so scary about this guy. So, in his childhood, this man, in that same way, if y'all listened to my story about this is how you get ghosts on your haunted plane, this is the story of this is how you get a fucked up serial killer. We don't know who his father is, and his mother did not quite know who his father was. He was born in Vermont at a home for unwed mothers in 1946. So super huge stigma, like we didn't talk about it. So it was like on his birth certificate, they said that his dad was like some Air Force man that turned out to not be a real guy, and then maybe it was some sailor, and it wasn't that guy either. And so he was raised by his grandparents as though his grandparents were his parents, and his sister and his mother were his older sister.
That's what they told him.
So that's what they told him, and that's what he believed growing up as a child. And his grandfather, he said, was super abusive, and of course, some of this again, it's like, yeah, this is believable information.
He was abusive towards his wife and his daughters,
and his
Didn't young tiny Teddy look up to him though? Like
there were conflicting reports of it. It sounded like there was one where he said, that he looked up to him and he loved him, and then there were and admired him, and then there were other reports where he was like, oh, but he was a brute, and he hated Catholics and Jews and blacks and everybody. Everybody that everyone in America in the 40s hated if you were a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
We do know that he found out the truth later on.
He did find out the truth later on, and that is one of the points in his life where they're pretty sure, there's some things that are pointed to as being this sure psychologically fucked that kid up, and that was one of the points where, and that was sometime into college that he found that out, because it was when he went back to Vermont and looked up his birth certificate. And there was also a rumor, a family rumor, that his father might actually have been his grandfather. And so
shit.
Yeah,
but there's nothing really
there's nothing to corroborate that.
Yeah.
And it sounds and the one person who was the evidence is basically non-existent on this is Anne Rule, and out of all the biographers that I have read and do know the history of, I trust her. So so you might read that, see that, I believe her when she says it was garbage, but it sounds like it was one of those sort of family rumor type things, but there's no evidence of it. So if that were true, that would be probably the singularly most fucked up thing on the planet is, oh yeah, your sister's really your mom and your grandpa's also your dad,
who you thought was your dad anyway, so I guess that's fine.
So that's fine, I guess. There's literally no evidence that would have been true. But
something else to note of that was shown when he was really young is he seemed to be very conscious of his family's wealth.
Yeah.
It was much just sort of he was say embarrassed of the inexpensive family car, and he's really conscious of those things, and that shows later on because he was
absolutely and especially in situations where okay, and I don't know what he would have actually been diagnosed with, but they do say that there's a lot of narcissistic personality disorder. It's comorbid with antisocial, because narcissistic personality, those two, with comorbidity in very, very extreme situations, this one. And again, this is a situation where it's this dude is an anomaly, and he's not a serial killer because he was mentally ill. Not everyone with these mental illnesses. This does not happen. So, antisocial personality disorder, people with antisocial personality disorder live normal lives, normally, right? Pretty normal lives. They have hardships and difficulties, but they're not, they don't, turn into serial killers. So there is no, serial killer personality disorder. You'll hear that sometimes. The tendencies that would usually be associated with this, and what you would find in earlier 90s literature about serial killers and about Ted Bundy would be a combination of antisocial personality disorder with narcissistic personality disorder. And people with narcissistic personality disorder, they are super aware of and this is not okay. So again, I'm not a professional. I'm not like it's a generalization, but so it's not accurate to everyone. But one thing that shows up is this tendency to sort of observe society and then like from that kind of frame what is to be expected of them, and without actually really sort of engaging with it in the same way. And I guess, wow, okay, cool. Don't smoke a doobie and talk about Ted Bundy. Like, so what I'm trying to say, oh my God, what I'm trying to say is that like, if what society is telling you is that you need to be wealthy and you need to be successful and you need to have a good job, like, or if you've gotten that message from someone who slighted you, in his case, that's what they think, is that one of his girlfriends.
Are we talking about Stephanie now? Or?
We will eventually. I'm going to go into that like with more fun detail because that's some crazy fucking bullshit. Like, but so there's a hyper awareness of it where it's like they don't like, it's like they understand it in this. There's like this analytical sort of aspect to the way that they approach, like, I need to be wealthy, right? Where it's like, I need this for class, I need this for social status, I need this for social capital, right? But not necessarily because they want to be wealthy, right? It's like the money doesn't matter, right? In that situation, it's like so much as the status matters, and what they're looking at is playing the social game, right? With the other people, rather. So yeah, so like that. And that was the kind of guy he was. And he got very, very good at being that guy. So he moved in his childhood at a young age to Tacoma, Washington, which is very close to where I live. I have been past his childhood home a couple times. I need to look up the exact address because I was much younger. It's in the neighborhood that my grandparents live in, actually, which is fun because my grandmother's brother shared a history class in high school with Ted Bundy. So they were in the same history class. So that's my 2 degrees from Ted Bundy in my family. And also, someone just recently bought his house, and apparently it's haunted with demons, because that's how you get demons. Because nobody died in that house, right?
That's how you
get told us about it. I don't think we talked about it. Like, I don't think it ended up in an episode.
But like, yeah, at some point, I'll do more research on that and give y'all the heads up on the haunted Demon Bundy house.
This is where you're like, someone's going for a movie deal or a book deal at some point. I swear to God.
Yeah, for real. So my boy Bundy is going to, like, at some point he goes to college, the University of Puget Sound is, then eventually transfers to Tacoma, and I believe it was UTech.
Hold on, pause. Are you moving around?
Oh, I only moved around the once. I'm done.
Okay.
Actually, wait. Better. Oh, man, I make no promises about my intelligence today.
Okay, continue. University.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so he goes to school because he's a student at the end. So we're moving on to his crazy fucking girlfriend situation, y'all. So first girlfriend, like, let me pull this up because I need to make sure I get this right.
He wasn't dating in high school, so this is his first girlfriend.
Oh yeah, this is his first girlfriend. His first girlfriend breaks up with him, and here's the great part. I love this. So his first girlfriend, here's the deal. So he's going to college, meets Stephanie. Mm-hmm. They start dating, and he is like not having a lot of success. Like, he's like not enjoying school, and so he decides, like, he starts getting into politics, right? And he's campaigning with the Republican candidate for president. I believe it was like he was working for he was like helping the governor, a Republican governor for this campaign as well. And then he then he goes to the Republican National Convention, I think it was 68 or something. No, it was like 72. Anyway, late 60s, early 70s Republican National Convention. And so he's looking at getting into politics, and he's like, and like all the guys he's worked with in politics, like, the gubernatorial candidate, the Republican guy who, like, he had been interning with, he's like, yeah, this kid's got, like, loads of charisma, right? Like, he'd be a great politician. Like, he's doing really well. And he's doing this. And Stephanie's like, you're wasting your life
on useless garbage. And she breaks up with him because apparently politics was directionless. Like, so when he stopped going to school and started, like, getting into politics instead, his girlfriend broke up with him because politics were directionless and useless. And I'm like,
Oh my
damn,
God.
like, wow, what a crazy life to live in. Yeah, 1971, like, sick. Like, she breaks up with him, and this, like, devastates him, right? Like, this
Another thing
ruins
to
his
note
life.
about Stephanie is that she was wealthy. She was very attractive. She was kind of like this prize wife. Didn't he propose to her?
Oh, I'm getting there. Oh, shit.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Like, yeah, he does propose to her, sort of. So, like, so she breaks up with him, and this is, like, and I don't know if this is, like, one of the leading theories about him anymore, because, like, some of my Bundy info's rustier. And by rustier, I mean from, like, fucking 15 years ago, and, like, I don't know, like, the dude's been dead as long as I've been alive, literally. Like, so, like, I don't know if information has changed, but she was thought to be the one who, because she had long brown hair parted in the middle, that was why that was his modus operandi for murdering all these other girls that looked exactly like her. Was that his beef with Stephanie was, like, so bad. And so, I mean, it was. He was obsessed with ruining this woman's life. Like, this is, like, narcissistic personality disorder to, like, fucking, like, the nth degree. Like, this is like Plato's, like, fucking platonic vision of, like, what narcissistic personality disorder is like. Like, if you even, yeah. So we got this dude who's been scorned, and it's his first girlfriend. And, like, and
back
I
in
mean,
the
nowadays,
day,
like,
he didn't
shit,
have Reddit
yeah,
to go
back
on
in
to
the
and
day,
bitch
he didn't
about.
have Reddit, so, like, anyway, yeah, he doesn't have the internet to complain to. Instead, he's gonna fucking plot. And he does what, like, any good Sagittarian or Capricorn does, right? Like, this is, Capricorns especially, you jive with this shit. You just become successful out of spite. You live the rest of your life better than other people because just the thrill of being better than other people, like, is enough to just, like, sustain you forever. So, like, he's got some of that shit going on. And out of spite, this man, for fucking just 6 years he plans this. Like, are you kidding? Like, this is next level. Like, it's Shakespearean almost, if his characters lived long enough to pull something like this off. He turns his life around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, goes back to school, gets a job, becomes super, he's starting to get super conservative, super charismatic, right? He's real successful. He's got a job outside of school, and he's, like, got prospects, right? He's got a plan for life, and he's got a girlfriend, and I don't remember her name.
Oh, it was Liz.
He
I think it
juggled.
was Elizabeth Clofer?
Was it? Yeah, it was Kofler. Yeah. So this is the woman who actually spent, like, quite a long amount of time with him, but, like, wasn't the one who got married to. So he's dating her, and he decides, like, because he, like, I think it was, like, he goes down to California for a bit, and he meets up with Stephanie again. Yeah. And they hit it off, and they start dating again. And bullshit, they hit it off. This bitch planned this, okay? So, like, it's been 4 years at this point. And, like, so, like, he hits it back off with her, and, like, they pick up their romance again. And, like, after a while, he proposes to her, and they start talking about getting married and, like, fucking, like, having kids or whatever. So okay, here we go. In the fall, so it's 1973. So he graduates from UPS Law School, and he's still, like, courting Stephanie, who has been coming to Seattle to see him. Like, even though he's dating this other girl, he's, like, at some point he, like, introduces her to other people as his fiance. And then, like, the culmination of all of this, like, fucking plotted, like, 5 years of his life. In January of 1974, he breaks off all contact, right? Ignores all her phone calls and all of her letters. And she finally gets in touch with him, like, after a month. Like, he answers the phone, and she's like, what the fuck did you do? Like, because they had been, like, together for, like, I think it was, like, nearing a year, like, that they were, like, and so she's like, what the fuck? Like, what happened, right? And he just goes, apparently in a flat, calm voice, he says, Stephanie, I have no idea what you mean, and hangs up on her.
I shouldn't be laughing, sorry.
No, what the hell? Like, that is like Scorpio level shit. Like, what? Like
Scorpio level shit. God,
oh my
I love it.
This is next level. I just love this. She never heard from him again. He later explained, I just wanted to prove to myself that I could have married her. But Brooks concluded in retrospect that he had deliberately planned the entire courtship and rejection in advance as vengeance for the breakup she initiated in 1968. And I'm like, bitch, you know it was. Like, yeah, like that was. So like this dude, psycho, like, yeah, just like plans for 5 years. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna turn my entire life around out of spite, hook back up with this chick, propose to her, and then fucking gaslight her like an entire year of her life didn't happen. What? So yeah, that I'm still not over that.
The speculation is that because, you know, she had the long brown parted hair, parted down the middle, all his victims are almost like mirror images of this woman, of Stephanie.
Yeah, they look
what I kind of wonder is, like, if he had just, like, dumped her and killed her, would he have been satisfied and not killed all these other women? Like, he, like, was he not satisfied with what he did to her?
It's like, I don't think so, because it's like, it's weird because it seems like almost predatory, because this is definitely a dude where it's like, nah, like, you talk about this dude, like, he was like a fucking animal. Like, this is like not like because like he did not regard humans as humans. Like, he did not interact with people as they were people. He interacted with them like they were prey. And like, or like if you could get something from them, right? Like if you need to get something from someone. So like his relationships, he did seem to have like some sort of like meaningful, like significant feelings for certain women in these ways where it was like he could carry on these relationships with them where they literally just like, one of them, like Elizabeth, like she was pretty fucking suspicious of him. She reported him to the cops like 3 times, like after a while. And so it wasn't like they didn't suspect anything, because I mean, it was one girl a month was going missing in Seattle. A girl a month. Like, yeah.
And like when he started, it was like a girl a month.
Yeah. And then like, and the craziest part was that it was like after he started doing this, and because he was just killing women like along the I-5 corridor in Oregon and Washington, and like in case like this doesn't, you know, because not everyone's from the West Coast that listens to our podcast, I'm sure. So I-5 is our major interstate that just goes from Washington. Well, it goes up into Canada and it comes all the way down to Mexico and it just goes to California. And basically in Oregon and Washington, all of our major cities are like on the I-5 corridor. And that makes it real convenient for murderers, because you literally just like take this one interstate up and down the West Coast, just murdering women left and right, and like so like
it's the murder interstate.
It's the murder interstate, like, and like so like, and the thing is, when Ted Bundy started murdering women, like, and they couldn't catch him, right? And it was like, and then bodies are like piling up, and then and I think, let me like see if there was like at some point if he was concurrent with Gary Ridgway at all, because if they were concurrent, that would be absurd. I don't think so, but he was murdering women starting in 1982. So he literally, okay, cool. So the Green River Killer literally picked up like what, fucking 4 years after Ted Bundy left the area. We don't get a lot of downtime from the serial murder up here.
Oh my god, that's kind of terrible when you put it that way. And then like, oh, I'm so glad Ted Bundy's been captured. Oh wait.
Oh yeah, he didn't even get captured. It's straight up.
He just moved.
He moved.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, he just moved down to Utah.
That's why again, Florida fucking like sweeps in, like, and is just like, you know what, we're here to save the day because we don't have morals down in this bitch. Like, and I'm like,
well, it was like he was like on the run again, and he's like, well, everyone knows me on the West Coast. Let's head down to Florida. No one knows me down there.
Yeah,
that was a mistake.
Yeah, it was great. I love it. Yeah, so like the fucking murder interstate, like lots of murder just up and down I-5. And so a bunch of like copycat murders were happening too. So it's like there are loads of missing women and girls from this time frame, like the 70s, where like we just don't know who fucking killed them, because it was like people were just like, oh man, there's so many bodies piling up. I've always wanted to know what it's like to kill some chick. Guess I'm doing it today. Fuck, what? Like, so yeah, there was like a bunch of people who were just like, oh, well, it looks like this is the hip thing to do. I guess I can get away with it now. And so that, yeah, so it was like real scary there for a while if you were a woman in the 70s or 80s in the Pacific Northwest.
I mean, it's scary to be a woman in general.
It's yeah, it is in general. Fucking real, but like, yeah, for real, but like, you know, yeah. Oh my god, so Bundy, who had been in fucking, yeah, because so he's like digging around California, digging around in like fucking Oregon and Washington, and then eventually gets caught in like Utah because like he tried to kidnap some chick. He gets arrested in Utah, and then he.
Is this the one that got away because he accidentally handcuffed the same hand twice?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He tried to kidnap some chick. I believe this was it.
Because he would. Okay. Do we want to get into like how he's getting these women in the car?
Yeah, like fucking my apologies from being in this area and like talking about Ted Bundy as much as I have for my entire 29-year long life, which is like a lot. I realize now, like I forget what kind of information people don't already know. So I'm sitting here like just like, oh yeah, let me just talk about Ted Bundy like y'all have already been to Ted Bundy 101, 102, and 103. Yeah, sorry y'all didn't come to like fucking like intro.
I just want to say you came out of the womb talking about Ted Bundy.
Yeah, I freaking did that. I was like, fucking that dude got fried on the electric chair. I was born like in what, like 6 months later, just like I know everything. Like, god damn it.
So what Bundy would do is he'd pretend to be injured, like cast or
injured.
Yeah.
He would go up to women and he would like fumble with stuff. So sometimes he'd have a sling. Sometimes, you know, he'd have like a leg cast or an arm cast or crutches, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was different. So like he would have his books and he'd have a sling and he'd be like, you know,
he'd be like dropping his books or something, or like he had a briefcase that he had asked him to take to his car.
Crutches, yeah. So like, yeah, so like, you know, Ted Bundy is literally the reason that like women like growing up like in the 80s and like our generation like literally just an injured man is like, hey, can you help me like bring some shit to my car? No, like guess what? Ted Bundy ruined it for y'all for the rest of y'all's lives. Like your leg broke, sorry, like we don't know, you know, like so he would ask them for help carrying shit to their like his van, and then he would like knock him out with the crutch or whatever, and then just like tie him
or
up.
He would have like
a
crowbar or something hidden under the car.
Under the car, yeah, and then he just fucking pull it out and just like clock him in the back of the head and throw him in the car.
And then where'd he take him?
Different places. God, like he'd drive out to the middle, like nowhere, because we're in corpse.
He would find different places.
He would go so he would put them in different places, and because the thing is that he would kill them, he would stage bodies in places, and he would come back to them, and he would have sex with them until you could not have sex with your goo pile anymore.
Oh
and
my
so
God.
It was like either they were just too far gone, or like the animals had gotten to them and there was not much you could do with them.
Yeah, there wasn't.
But he would also, what was really messed up, like he would dress them up and paint their nails and
he would
pretty them up.
And he was like brushing their hair, I don't think he put wigs on them. I think I just mixed him up with one of the, you know, fucking I just mixed this bitch up with Buffalo Bill, who was partially based on him. Lots of serial killers actually, literally, okay, and I'm sure this is already something that's been talked about before, but when I went back and watched the original Halloween movie, and I need to watch Friday the 13th, but these you know, late 70s, mid to late 70s, the early, horror slasher kind of genre, movies where it was just, it's remember, these were all coming out, when one girl a month is, going missing, right? Getting fucking murdered, in parts of America by, serial killers that, we had largely not caught. And so it's just thinking about how much more terrifying a lot of these movies were at the time, and why so many of these iconic characters Michael Myers and fucking Jason don't really have, you know, you know, until you get like shitty sequels, right? Like that you get like some crappy motivations for your character. But like in the originals, right? Like where it's like, okay, these characters don't have really complex motivations that we understand. It's like, yeah, because they were based on these like boogeymen of real serial killers, right? That like we didn't know who they were. Like we don't know anything about them at the time. And I found it fascinating. Like, so now I'm like, when I go back and I watch this, I think about shit like Ted Bundy and like Gary Ridgway. And it's just like, imagine like watching movies like this and knowing that like these disappearances were actively happening and we hadn't caught them. And so this is like a real scary thing. And it's like, yeah, there you go. That's your only boogeyman when you live in like suburban white America, right? It's some like fucking random dude who literally breaks into your house and like rapes and bludgeons you to death, like in your own fucking basement. And like, cause that shit was just like, yeah, that's fucking scary. No wonder like so much of our like pop culture just like focuses like so heavily on like, why are serial killers so scary? And it's like, yeah, so it's just like, it's all, you know, there's like so much, it's just so fascinating about this. And like, so,
it is literally the boogeyman to a lot of people. It's the adult version of a boogeyman, really.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Like, because you just don't know, you know? And it's like, really, are we ever going to truly know, like, this dude's, like, motivations? Like, no. Or, like, what the fuck's going on after that? No. Because, like, who do we have to rely on when we ask? This guy. And, like, and he's basically here playing games with us. But, yeah, back to, like, fucking what you mentioned earlier, which was, like, the whole reason I went all the way around here to come full circle. The reason he didn't murder her, I think, Elizabeth, is that he did have like a connection to her, and her existence in his life was like a keystone point. So I feel like there was a significance to her where he needed her around for other reasons. And like it was like the rage was like a different one where it's like he would rather have her like be able to ruin her life in a way where like he can like try to emotionally devastate her, right? Like, and that might be more satisfying to him because of what she did to him personally, right? Because like it's strangers that he just kills, you know. Like, and he did, you know, because he does get married to some woman who did know he was a serial killer with just some crazy shit I didn't remember. Like
we'll get to that because that's during like the court proceedings in Florida.
Yeah, but they met like when he was like in Utah or some shit, like in Colorado. Yeah. So then he's like in Colorado and he kills some people. So he kills some people in Utah, and then he moves to Colorado and he kills some people. He got caught in Florida after, there's
a lot of shit that happens.
A lot of shit
his escapes. Let's hit
let me get to that.
We get
this
to
is
Florida.
Crazy shit. So this bitch escaped prison twice, almost in the same year, like effectively the same year, in Colorado. So like, okay, so his first prison escape.
Essentially was he was going to be his own defendant. He was going to defend himself in court.
Yeah, because this was...
And they were... I think they were having a recess.
I went to law school.
Yeah, he's like, I went to law school. I can totally defend myself. My ego is that big.
Because he was defending himself, and because and you know, largely a lot of this also super charismatic, like successful white man, and it's the 70s. Like they were really lenient with him a lot in the beginning, like, and it was just like, yeah, this dude like straight up like when Elizabeth like reported him twice because it was like 3 different women had tipped off the cops to him because they're like, yep, this picture matches him, this description of his personality matches him, and this car is his car. And the cops were like, man, all this shit sure matches, and 3 women have sure said something, but surely this white male law student without any criminal record is fine. And they just didn't follow up. And so when he says, oh, I want to defend myself in court, he was like the top suspect in King County at this point for all of his murders. But like not in Colorado. Like they didn't know quite the scope, I don't believe. And so he's like, yeah, I'm gonna represent myself. And so they're like, okay, cool. So that means that we're like not gonna like handcuff you or anything. We're not gonna like make sure.
No shackles, no handcuffs.
Yeah, no shackles, and like no fucking like, yeah, no supervision. Cool, you're just gonna like chill. And so then he's like, okay, cool. During recess, can I go to the library and learn about laws? Which, like, I feel like, yeah, great ruse, buddy. He's like, hey, y'all, I'm my own attorney. Can I go learn about laws. Like, yeah, I'm real proud of you, buddy. Like, you seem like you got this totally handled. So then he hid behind a bookshelf and fucking climbed out a window and escaped. And he just fucking peaced out.
I think one of the things that, like prior to his capture and, like, later on, for a little while after, they were finally getting on his tail, but, police weren't sharing information. So,
Yeah,
like, everyone knew, like, okay, we got this killer up in the West Coast, and now he's down in Colorado, and then no one...
Yeah, it was like, we didn't, like, consider, like, and there's this, like, it's, like, unprecedented, like, in this way, too, where it's like, yeah, we've had, like, murders before, like, you know, but again, like, when I did the Candyman episode, we talked about that, and that's kind of, like, one of America's first real serial killers, in, like, quotes, right, like, other than H.H. Holmes. Mm-hmm. But, like, that's one of those ones where we really called it a serial killer. And, like, that one, it's like, yeah, that happened in, like, the 50s, 60s, and 70s in Houston. And it's like, but the police department didn't talk about it. So largely nobody fucking knows about it. And so it's like, if the cops aren't talking about it, you don't know about it. Which also is very concerning, because the cops control the narrative all the time about what's going on in their situation. So
now you can just look on the internet and someone's probably tweeting about it or something.
Yeah, now they're being held accountable now, right? But it's like, yes, it's like if the police department's not, like, you know, like, publicly, and you know, of course, there's a lot of very, very valid reasons that you don't publicly advertise that you're looking for a serial killer, like, right? And this is before we had, like, fucking massive databases. Apparently, this is actually this is the first time that, like, they actually used a computer to compile a database to try to help solve these murders. And it was that they, like, used one of their, like, old payroll computers, like, and this is, like, back when computers are, like, the size of a whole room, like, so it's like this gigantic, like, computer the size of a whole fucking, like, room, like a living room. And, like, they're like, yeah, so they programmed into it, like, a, you know, lists of suspects, and, like to look for coincidences in, like, these, like, overlaps of, like, people. And it was like, it kept spitting out things that are like, oh yeah, Ted Bundy's in our, like, top 10 of people who, like, coincidentally were in all of these same places at the same time, or, like, whatever, right? And so, like, yeah, I guess with Ted Bundy in King County, that was the, like, and in criminal, like, serial killer, like, fucking police work. This was, like, the first time they'd, like, compiled a database to help solve the crime. But of course, it's before the internet, so it was like, can't share information between police precincts. So when you got a serial killer who's hopping states, you're kind of boned if you don't already have, like, enough evidence to convict him in one state for another state to hold him, right? So then he gets fucking caught again.
Okay, wasn't it okay? He jumps out the window and they catch him, like, 6 days later, because he was he went up into, like, the mountains, and he was surviving by breaking into, like, hunting cabins.
Oh yeah,
and, like, stealing food and whatnot and there. And he stole a
lost
car.
In the forest.
But what happened was, I think he sprained his ankle.
Yeah, he sprained his ankle when he jumped out the window.
So he couldn't drive too well, and then that's why he got pulled over and they caught him.
Oh my god, what a fucking loser. He's like, are you impaired? Yeah, by my own idiocy. Fuck.
God, why? Holy moly.
Shit. I like the part where he wandered aimlessly on the mountain for 2 days, missing 2 trails that led downward to his intended destination.
Oh my god, I didn't know that one.
God. Back in jail in Glenwood Springs, Bundy ignored the advice of friends and legal advisors to stay put. The case against him, already weak at best, was deteriorating steadily as pretrial motions consistently resolved in his favor, and significant bits of evidence were ruled inadmissible. So it's just like, conveniently for this white dude, like, everything's working out, everything's coming up Bundy. Fucking, like...
yeah, it's fine, dude. We didn't have DNA back then. It's fine.
Yeah, we didn't DNA, which is, like, part of why he was so good at it. But, like today, like, yeah, absolutely, he would not have been able to get away with, like, all of this. Mm-hmm. Here we go. So, like, then he gets, like, fucking arrested again, and it's, like, late night.
Can we talk about how he escaped the second time?
Yeah, that's where we're going.
Oh, okay.
It's the second escape.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's late 1977. they're waiting on his trial, and this is where he was like, he filed a motion to try to change the venue to Denver. You know, I understand why, because, you know, like bigger, like inner cities, like bigger cities, like are just more like left leaning, right? Like traditionally more progressive leaning. So like he was probably thinking that if he went to like Denver, like they were going to be like, they weren't going to give him the death penalty or anything, right? Like I don't know if Colorado like had the death penalty at the time. I'm sure like they probably did. I'm pretty sure that's one of the states where it's like it hasn't wavered as much. Like part of the issue here, you know, what's really great about Washington State and all of our goddamn serial killers is the part where we're also full of a bunch of communist hippies. And like we turn the death penalty like on and off like it's a goddamn garbage disposal up in this bitch. So like it's never on when it needs to be. Like so like we just repealed it, I think. We finally repealed it, and you want to know what that did? It changed the Green River Killer, who is still alive, right? And like this bitch is up in Walla Walla, Washington, sitting on death row. It's not death row anymore. It has now become like 3 consecutive life sentences. But like, you know, honestly, at this point, whatever. Like, death row debates are death row debates. But like, it's wild because of, you know, it's just the politics of the state are so crazy. So it's like, yeah. So whether or not our death penalty is active is at any given point in our history at the same time as the capture of a prolific serial killer is, it never seems to line up. So anyway, so we're back to Bundy trying to go to Denver. And I'm sure that's because he thought that he was going to get treated to a lighter sentence there. So fucking murders. He's like, cool, those liberal hippies won't fucking kill me in Denver. And they were just like, actually, bitch, we're sending you to Colorado Springs, where those rich white people will in fact kill you. Like, excellent. So then, on the night of December 30th, apparently most of the jail staff was on Christmas break, and like the nonviolent prisoners were like let out to go like chill with their families. So Bundy, who's like still in prison, piles a bunch of books and files and shit in his bed, covers them with a blanket to make it look like his own body, and then climbs into a fucking crawl space. Right?
It was like a light fixture in his cell.
Yeah.
That should have been cemented in, but it hadn't, so that he was able to. I heard that, like, okay, my first time I heard it, I thought it was like he could, like, they thought no one could reach up there, so it would be fine, and he was just able to like move it and get up in there. But then I also heard other accounts where he was supplied like a hacksaw. Either way, he got up into this light fixture. Yeah. And my favorite part about this is that he'd been losing weight for this. He lost like 35 pounds so he could fit. And that the people in the cells adjacent to him were like, hey, we can hear Bundy crawling above us at night. And like no one
practicing, he's fucking, oh my god. And fucking nobody does anything. So he breaks through the ceiling into the apartment of the chief jailer, who was out with his wife for the evening, changes into some street clothes from this dude's closet, and then just walks out the front door.
It's fine.
It's fine, Tia.
Yeah, just look at like you belong, and people will just think you belong.
Right? And you want to know what's great? Is the fact that the Florida section of this man's life is its own section, titled Florida. And I'm like, good. You know what? Good. Like...
Yeah, because this is when he heads for Florida.
Did he want to go to Disney World?
Actually, was Disney World even around back then? Yeah,
Disney. It was opened in 1971. So
yeah. So it was. Well, hold on, because
Ted Bundy, you just escaped jail. What do you want to do now?
It was Disney World. It was like 1978. So like actually, like Disney World had that like only 7 years. Okay, no, like this fucking like the history of Disney World. Don't even get me distracted by just being like, hey, remember that time that Walt Disney straight up
tangent we could go
just like secretly bought like a whole fucking country-sized chunk of like Florida. It was just like, you know what, bitch, I own Florida now. Bye. Like, yeah.
I mean, it's the truth. That's the only part of Florida that's worth anything.
Let's get back to Bundy.
So Florida.
We can talk Walt later.
So, but Bundy and Floridaville. Okay, Florida, who doesn't fuck around? So this bitch just decides he's gonna go to Florida, break into a sorority, and murder some girls.
Wasn't in some interviews with him, he was like, yeah, I had thought that I could get a job and just fade into
Society.
yeah,
and
he was like, no, I am gonna break into a sorority house and murder
and
everyone that I can get to.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes you just have that itch you need to scratch, I guess.
Yeah, like hold on, I'm trying to remember how many people he killed in this situation.
Oh, geez.
I think it was like 4.
It looks like 4 cars.
I know it was Chi Omega was the name of the sorority house, something like that.
Yeah, Chi Omega.
Chi Omega. Yeah, we go. And it was like he just went from room to room.
Yeah, it's 3 in the morning.
Bludgeoning these girls with a log he picked up from outside.
Yeah, this dude did brutal shit that even I can't talk about as freely as I used to when I was a edgelord at 15. So he kills them. Yeah. He kills all these 4 girls, and then he steals a van and drives to Jacksonville.
Well, there was so he broke into the Chi Mega sorority house.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure he killed 2 or 3 girls there. And then he wasn't done though. Didn't he drive to another sorority house?
Yeah, let's see.
That same night.
Broke into the basement from 8 blocks away and attacked FSU student Cheryl Thomas.
Yeah, that was the second one that same night. She survived.
Yeah.
Cheryl
and
Thomas
she survived. She's the one who survived. Yeah. Yeah. So it looks no. Yeah. So it looks just he broke in and attacked her at another basement apartment after he left the sorority house, and it was at the sorority house when he killed those 4 girls. He killed 4 girls in less than 15 minutes, within earshot of more than 30 witnesses who heard nothing. After that, he gets suspicious that the cops are gonna come and find him.
I think there's a very recent documentary that I did watch a little bit ago in preparing for this.
Yeah, there was one
where I'll see if I can link you to it, because it is probably the most recent one that I've seen on this, and they do have Cheryl on there and some of the other her roommates that were in the room across from her who could hear the attack.
Okay.
And I think they were the ones who called the police. And I think what happened is one of them called into Cheryl's room to see what the hell was going on. And when she didn't answer, they hung up and called the police, and that was why Bundy left.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so he had been trying to pull the same thing again. With another. Holy shit, yeah, so this dude just snapped and was I'm gonna murder as many women as possible in one night.
Pretty much.
Which is interesting because at some point he and while he was in Utah, he was I'm gonna try to just rape this girl and then let her go without murdering her, and that was unsuccessful. She died.
Oh my god.
He's I choked her on accident, and then I had to bury her body.
I was trying to get her to stop screaming, and I choked her on accident.
This was around the time that at some point, because remember how he would go back and have sex with bodies until they were no longer,
Yeah.
Because I can't stick it in, I guess. And there was one body where he drove 6 hours back to the site of that body to bone down with that body, and then drove 6 hours back. What? I know people who wouldn't do that for a live booty call.
I was gonna say
hello.
My mind immediately went to the fact that at one point he decided, I'm gonna drive 6 hours to go fuck that corpse. What the fuck?
My fucking dude. God. Yeah, so once he's caught in Florida, it's a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
Especially since this bitch has been
okay, I gotta point out more ridiculous.
Yeah, no, please do, because you know more about the minutia of this excitement. Yes, please tell.
Okay, before he gets caught, I think you're about to go into it, where he goes to Jacksonville and he kidnaps 12-year-old Kimberly Leach, I think her name was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was his last known murder. We're pretty sure it was his last murder. Okay, the thing that really gets to me about that one is apparently there was a witness who saw Bundy dragging Kimberly into his van or car or whatever he had at the time. And they just thought it was an angry parent and said nothing.
I think
Hey,
that's the sad reality. I mean,
Yeah.
how many
of like that
people?
fucking
Yeah, most
and,
people,
in that
if
era
they
too.
see something, they don't want to get involved. So
Oh yeah, hell no. Like,
It's
well, and
it's a mixture of, I think they don't want to get involved. On top of, certain people are just like, this can't be happening, and they completely just disassociate.
oh yeah, no,
like,
yeah, your brain will just like be like, cool, I'm like not watching this, and it'll just be like, well, no, you're not. Like,
so he kills Kimberly.
mhm.
Poor little Kimberly. And then that's when he's like starting to feel like, okay, I think the cops are getting close to me again, and he steals a car and flees Tallahassee, and he's arrested. He's stopped by just I don't know, he's a patrol officer, but he's stopped because the car he was in was stolen.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the guy who arrests him because of the stolen car has no idea that he has Bundy, like who Bundy is, and like
Yeah,
he
that's, like,
doesn't
the
know
crazy
what
part.
he has in his car.
Because he
I
was
think
on the
there
10
was,
most wanted. He was on the FBI's
Yeah.
most wanted
Yeah.
list at this point. So like everyone should have seen his picture.
Mm-hmm. But like, I think there was a struggle, but he does get him into the car, and like, there's this note of like Bundy apparently having said like, "I wish you had just like killed me."
Yeah, he's like, I wish he'd killed me. When told he was under arrest, Bundy kicked Lee's legs out from under him and took off running. Hello? What a fucking badass. Like, just like fucking a cab and just like kick the cop's legs out from under him. Like, who does that?
Ted Bundy does.
Ted Bundy does. That, yeah. So as Lee transported his suspect to jail, unaware that he had just arrested one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives, he's heard Bundy say, "I wish you had killed me." Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's good because that dude got to fry in the electric chair, which is a great and fun way to go. Fun stories about why Florida does not fuck around. Florida, like, arrested. What? Oh, no.
He was on death row for 10 years before they finally fried him.
Yeah, he was on death row for like 10 years. But during that time, like, there were a bunch of extradition requests to, like, yeah. And so he, states that didn't have the death penalty kept trying to get him back, right? So, like, Washington at the time didn't have the death penalty. And like, they were, like, thinking about, like, getting him extradited to Washington. And Florida was like, no. Like, Florida was like, no, because we have this dude. So they sentenced him in 2 separate trials to 3 death sentences, right? Like, we got...
I think was it 3 or I thought it was just 2 death sentences? Because he was sentenced to death for the Chi Omega murders, and then he was sentenced to death again for Kimberly's murder.
Yeah.
Is what I understood.
So they had him for like 10 years, and like during that time, like they kept trying to like extradite him, and like and
he was hoping for it too. Like, wasn't he
he was pushing
to, like...
for which is part of why, like, okay, so like while he was in prison, because like part of it, and I think part of the reason that they didn't just like swiftly execute this dude is like, okay, they needed to know why he did what he did, right? It's like it's, and especially since it was like so many other people were doing it at the same time. And so, like, this was a phenomenon, right, that, like, was just, like, totally not understood by law enforcement. And so they kept this dude around, which sucks because it's, like, he, in this way where it's, like, he just wants attention. Like, he's a narcissist, and he wants attention. And so, like, he's gonna keep, like, trying to find ways to, like, get involved with law enforcement or get attention. And that's one of the reasons they think he gave so many interviews like he did. And so one of the more famous things that he did that I just love this story because it's so really was that while they were trying to find Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer in Washington State, and I do believe this was one of those ones where it was like he helped because he thought that he could get his extradition request if he helped Washington State specifically. They were like, okay, this guy's killing women and leaving them next to, leaving them in the middle of places like Bundy was. So we're going to go talk to him and see if he has any advice or if he can tell us anything about this guy. Because this was like back when, again, we didn't know a lot about serial killers, and they really just wanted to they wanted him to be the same. Like they wanted to find like some sort of like pattern. And it's like, realistically, there are such wildly variable reasons why serial killers do what they do. Like, you can't really, like, you can come up with, like, okay, you've got your tiny baseline, but, like, even then, we don't know. That's the entropy of it all. So, in that effort to learn more, he just like trolls them. And he also, and it's either that like, and I think it was either that he was trolling them or that he just genuinely like wants attention and doesn't realize that other serial killers aren't him. So like they go to talk to him and they're like, Bundy, what do you think? What should we do? And he's like, well, I know that I like boning down with a fresh corpse. So this dude probably also likes boning down with a fresh corpse. So what you guys should do. Yeah. So what you guys should do is the next time that you find one of this guy's bodies is you should set up a little camp and wait for him to come back to his rotting corpse and get a free show.
Sorry, I should not be laughing.
No, it's great. It's great because, oh my God, it's awful. So they try, right? And it's unsuccessful because, surprise, not every serial killer bones down with rotting bodies. That is the thing that not everybody does. Corpse fucker fandom, pretty small. What is it? Probably Walking Dead fans and this guy. So, and Tina from Bob's Burgers.
Oh my God, okay, yeah.
It's a Venn diagram, y'all, of corpse fuckers. And it's Tina and, like, maybe some of the fandoms from Walking Dead. And you got Ted Bundy. Yeah, so I just love that. I just love it. It's like, okay, hey, so we got this dude doing the same shit you're doing. So, like, hey, you want to help? And he's like, IDK. Maybe he's fucking up. Like, cool. What?
And the fact that they went, sounds legit, and did it.
Sounds legit, and hung out. And, like, nope. Like, and then Bundy's like, oh, he's not boning the bodies? I got nothing. Like, yeah, cool. You got nothing. Like, that's what I thought.
One of the other interesting things that Bundy would do during, like, all of his interviews is, for a lot of them, especially in the beginning, he would talk in the third person. Like, it wasn't himself he was talking about.
Yeah, you know, and I wonder about that because of, like, how well he would create sort of separate personalities for himself. I wouldn't say that this guy had dissociative identity disorder or anything, absolutely not, but he was really good at that, like, creating narratives, and, like, I bet that was part of that. I bet.
Well, like, so there was one cop who kept flying in to interview him, and he was one of the ones that were talking to him about Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. He was one of the ones who would fly in and be like, hey, got ideas? And they could never get Bundy to talk about his murders. His own murders. And
part of it was that they wanted to get him to talk about his own murders. So that was, like, part of
part of why they were going to him for that too. But, like, I guess this guy, he finally had this kind of, like, epiphany of an idea of, like, I think in the interview he talks about how he was thinking on how everyone refers to Bundy as this attractive boyish whatnot, and he was like, yeah, he is a boy. Well, how do you get a 12-year-old to talk? And so he goes back to Bundy and is like, hey, you have a law degree and in psychiatry and whatnot and everything. You're smart.
Yeah, you talk to an narcissist So he was like, you know, like, well, how, in your professional opinion, the person who committed the murders that you're accused of, you know, what would they be doing? What's their, you know, explain me. What's your professional? And that's why he would be talking in the third person when he was talking about his murders. Yeah. Oh my God. That's genius, though. Yeah, so then he finally got electrocuted. Once they didn't, you know, once it turned out that he was just feeding them garbage and they didn't need him anymore. No.
Yeah. Well, it was like, wasn't it also like one of the very last people to interview him was this priest, this evangelical, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, evangelical, yeah.
This, like, couple reached out to him and they were one of his, I think it's his last interview was with this guy. And he's talking about, like, the reason he's a murderer was because he got addicted to, like, hardcore violent porn.
Oh, yeah.
But it's, like, horse shit, because he's just saying whatever this guy wants him to say.
It's just, right? Because he's playing games with you, like...
Yeah, he's just hoping, like, you'll do something to, like, put off his execution, and that's...
Yeah. Like, And one of the most fucked up things about, like, when you really, like, when I was, like, reading about, like, Ted Bundy, and you read about, like, the beginnings of his childhood, like, where he's like, oh, yeah, like, I was a real, like, bad kid, like, back in the fucking, like, 50s, 60s, like, he's like, yeah, I was, like, looking into people's windows and, like, seeing if I could catch a side boob, or, like, I was digging through the trash looking for pics to titties, and, like, I'm just like, damn, dude, like, and it's just, like, in today's day and age, it's like, oh, you were a peeping Tom? Like, cool, that's nothing. Like, it's, like, so much worse now, right? Like, of course, like, that was not all he was doing, so obviously, that was a concern, but it's, like, just the way that it was talked about in the literature, like, here's all this deviant behaviors of his childhood that we should have recognized in the beginning. And it's like, God, that shit's tame in comparison to the shit people are doing today in the year of our Lord 2018. Like, back in the 70s, back in the 60s, when the most titillating thing you could see was some side boob in a lady's window. And that's it. That's where I end my story about Ted Bundy getting fried on January 24th, 1989.
Oh boy.
Just a boy looking for some side titty in some windows, who moved on to murder.
It escalated.
just slippery slope. Slippery slope, my friend. You know what is a slippery slope? Is being lied to your whole childhood about your sister really being your mama. Except the other way around. That'll mess you up. That will, in fact, mess you up.
Also, apparently, the abuse from the father figure probably did not help at all.
Yeah, right. Like, just being, growing up in that environment where you're, like, watching women be abused by other men.
One other thing to note about the whole pornography thing was, like, okay,
in that
era
too, there was a huge, like, the Supreme Court was trying to ban smut, like, so there was this whole, like, anti-smut movement that was going on right at that time. So that like in the, like, 60s, so, like, that probably 1965, actually, the year he graduated from high school. That would have been around the time.
But if you look at what he really, like, what he grew up with was, like, it was the detective comics.
Yeah, it was
novels.
And it sounded like he would, like, try to find, like, the most, like, gruesome stories that he could possible from, like, like, true grit, like, types of, like, crime novels and stuff. And, like, what if he had been around in the age of the internet where you could just satisfy all those or just by going to 4chan?
I mean, yeah.
And then you go and you murder your girlfriend and you take pictures of it and you post it on 4chan and then you get arrested.
And that's a story for another day.
That's a story for another day. You know what? And I feel like one day I'm going to do a follow-up with some more fun Bundy facts, TM, that I write down for later, just because he's my go-to. I'm always going to go back and find some good Bundy facts, and they will probably be about his demon house. Because, like, no murders happened in this house. So there's, like, no reason for this house to be haunted. So why is there a demon in it?
Wait. Because I was going to say, because clearly the demon was a part of him, and it just decided to stay at his house.
Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah, exactly.
The demon wasn't him, so...
Yeah, because, like, yeah, right? And I love it, too, because it's just, like, you hear about, like, ghost stories and shit, like, a lot, right? Like, it's just like, oh, yeah, this house is haunted. But it's just like, no, super distinctly, they're like, no, this house, demonic possession, not haunted. And I'm like, oh, good, we've made that distinction because, yes, I wouldn't believe it was haunted, but I would believe it was a demon. Like, I guess they straight up, like, cut open the walls, like, in this house, and, like, some of the previous owners had, like, scribbled a bunch of Bible verses on the insides of the walls to try to get rid of the demon.
What?
Yeah, and so it was like some people bought this, like, Bundy's old house and, like, didn't, so because they were, like, re-insulating, and it was, like, on the inside of, like, on the inside of the walls, like, a bunch of, like, Bible verses and, like, shit, like, all scrawled in there. Yeah, would that freak you the fuck out, wouldn't it? Especially since, like, these people also didn't know it was Ted Bundy's childhood home. Like, they just bought it because, they're gentrifying the area. And, like, this is what's going on in this situation. And so it's just like, oh, yeah, we bought this cute little house in this cute little, like, fucking suburban neighborhood. And it's just like, oh, yeah, that, Ted Bundy's house. Yeah, I guess, like, shit, like, opens and closes on its own or whatever, like, all the time.
All that fun.
All the fun demon shit.
Poltergeist.
Is that the house that he lived in when, I think he was, like, about 3, and he, like, lined his aunt's bed with knives, with all the kitchen knives?
Right? No. I think that was still Becky's.
Jeez.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
fucking
his, like-
forgot about that. His aunt, like,
his
wakes
like
up.
teenage aunt.
Yeah,
wasn't
it was his teenage aunt, and she woke up, and she was just surrounded by all the kitchen knives that had just been, like, he just put them all in the bed next to her.
I wanted you to be safe. So
That's one of those situations where you're just like, damn, dude, was this actually just like a demon baby that was like put on this earth as a demon? Like, is this not a human? Was this not a human the entire time? Like, was this just like some transcendent fucking like eldritch being that just like fucking murdered people and left? Like,
well, no, it didn't leave. It's at the house now.
yeah, you're right. It didn't leave. It just fucking like, it's just like fucking Florida, like, just electrocuted it back to fucking Tacoma. Thanks, Florida. Like, I'm just like, damn, you'd think if any place could keep a handle on a demon, it would be Florida.
No.
it?
No, that's.
Oh, wait. Thanks
Okay.
for coming to my TED Talk.
Yes.
That's what I said the last time that I went on a rant about Ted Bundy, and I was like, shit, if I forget to say that on the podcast. So you have to cut out the part where I planned that, because, like, fucking, I almost forgot.
What was that noise?
It's Silver Bullet News.
A segment where we quickly highlight recent news in mainstream horror media. To start off with, we have, from the Alien Twitter account just recently announced this last Monday, that they are releasing a mobile game.
Oh, I heard about this!
I'm
No!
so excited about this.
Oh my god. Alien Blackout, which will be starring the character, oh shit, what's her name? Amanda Ripley?
Yep.
Who is Ripley's daughter. We don't know if
Hey,
it's...
wait, rude. I liked Gay Ripley. What did they decide that she's, like, bi now? That's acceptable.
Well, wait. Maybe she just had artificial insemination. Or adopted, you know.
Either way, excellent. Continue.
Excellent, yes. We don't know if it is a sequel to the Alien Isolation game from 2014.
It has
But-
not been said.
It has not been said yet. But
No,
since it
no,
has...
they really said it isn't.
Oh,
That's
it isn't?
the-
Okay.
that's
That
say.
part I didn't hear. But yes, we are excited.
Is
No,
this
we're not.
Space
Content.
Marines?
No. Mobile games can go burn in a fire.
Aww.
Oh, wow. Come at me next time. Come at me. I only play mobile games, and I play them hard, and I will fight you.
Next
Casual,
bullet! Next
but no.
bullet! On Friday, through an Instagram Q&A session, the Mistress of the Dark herself, Elvira, replied to a fan question about possibly returning on Netflix with Elvira's Movie Macabre, and her comment was, I'm working on it, so if you are a fan of Elvira, you have something to look forward to, possibly.
Hell yeah.
So, which makes sense with Mystery Science Theater that came back on
Doing
Netflix.
their comeback?
Their
Yeah,
comeback,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, there's some good classics coming back.
And then speaking of reboots, our next bullet, Bruce Campbell has announced that he's set to host and produce a reboot of Ripley's Believe It or Not for the Travel Channel.
Oh, that's right, my boy. Oh man, I'm so excited. As a native Oregonian, I gotta stand him harder than usual.
The series is set to debut in summer of 2019.
Incredible.
Cool. All right, and moving on to movie releases, the notable movie releases or worth mentioning. We had Escape Room that just released on the 4th, which is surprisingly doing well. I was not anticipating this.
Surprising.
It on its opening weekend, it held the box office and it has second place in the box office at 18 million, right behind Aquaman. So, if any
I was
listeners,
surprised how well Aquaman did.
yeah, me too. A lot of surprises this month.
Lots of surprises this January of 2019.
Yeah, another surprise that Into the Spider-Verse wasn't higher. Anyway,
I need to see that.
if any listeners have seen Escape Room, let me know what you thought of it. Is it worth me seeing in theaters? Let me know. But if you are going to see any movie this month, go see Into the Spider-Verse.
Yep.
Other movie-related news, which we already touched on earlier in this episode, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, the biography movie starring Zac Efron.
My boy?
Yep, about
my
Ted
other
Bundy.
boy? I have a
But
little.
is
I
there
have
a
a little
musical
guess.
number in this movie?
Do you realize that, like, if there was, I would lose my goddamn mind. Why aren't there musicals about serial killers? Holy shit.
Get
Holy
on
shit,
that.
I
That's
found
a
my
market
calling.
for
I
you to
found my
tap.
calling.
Get in there.
There
Get
you
on
It
it.
is my market. It is my market. Copyright Ophelia. 2019. All serial killer musicals from Forthwith. Everyone. All of them.
All right, the Bundy biography comes out on the 26th of this month, and you know that we will definitely watch it. Also, though, I found out Bundy-related movies, and did I write this down? Hold up, let me check my tabs. There is a movie, there's no trailer for it yet, but it's called Bundy and the Green River Killer. It comes, I think it's slated to release in April? Next month, the movie releases. On the 7th, we'll release The Prodigy, which stars that lady from Orange is the New Black.
Is that lady? I'm like, I don't know who you're
There's
talking
so many ladies in Orange is the New Black.
Main one, the white one.
Of the cast.
The main white one, yeah.
The main white
That's
one.
The blonde one.
Yes. Okay, and then also on Valentine's Day, we will have Happy Death Day to You. I haven't seen the original, and that one also did better than anticipated, so I'm curious. Also, last movie that I'll mention, I think it comes out on the 1st or 9th of February. This is the Netflix release called Velvet Buzzsaw, where these fancy schmancy artsy people find or take the paintings of this dead guy and start selling them for money, and then it turns out the paintings have some sort of new supernatural force. So it looks good. It's got it has Toni Collette, who did an amazing job in Hereditary. And it also has that chick from
I just love Toni Collette. I said I haven't even seen Hereditary yet. That sounded real good, but I love Toni Collette. This is great.
She's in it. The girl from Stranger Things that isn't 11 is in it.
okay. I haven't even watched Stranger Things, and I know who you're talking about, basically.
Oh, the new girl from season 2?
Yeah.
No. She was in the first season. She plays one of the boys' older sister. She plays older brother.
Oh, the cute girl.
The cute one, yeah.
Yeah, the hot girl. Yeah, okay.
Anyway, that
why
has
do you have to
been
be so
Silver
judgmental?
Bullet News. God, that was a terrible return, guys.
Hey, no, that was a great return. It was the best return.
It was the greatest of turns. It was the worst of return.
Yeah.
And with that, the Witching Hour has come to an end. For more episodes and other horror-related content, visit us at creativehorror.com. You can help support the show by leaving us a review on iTunes.
We never really cared about it too much before, but if we want to keep the show going for another 3 years, a few minutes of your time will go a long way. And if you really want to go the extra mile, consider pledging to our Patreon. The bulk of our rewards, including mini episodes and audio extras, are accessible for $1 a month.
You can also find us on Twitter at Witch Hour Horror. Let us know what topics you want to hear us cover, or share with your friends that you're listening.
Thank you for spending your time with us. Whatever your creative passion is, we hope you get out there and do it because it makes you happy. And we hope you'll join us for another gear of the Witching Hour.
So yeah, one day I'll go to Ted Bundy's demon house. Watch it just be owned by I don't know, some people who were just minding their own damn business, and I just knock on the door and I'm just like, "Hello, how's your Bundy demon doing today?"